Our next guest is brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club, off to an incredible start here in 2024. Amazing reviews on the course conditions and service, and reminding group organizers of 12 or more, it is not too early to get your September or October corporate or buddy trips booked. Prime times are filling up fast here. You, the group organizer, if you bring 12 or more, you play for free. Tell us about your group at whistlergolf.com/groups. Joining us now from Rinkwide Vancouver, and he and Jeff Patterson recorded a new episode here today, so be on the lookout for that. It's Mr. Irfaan Gaffar. How are you?
Gentlemen, Blake, how you doing? Matt, I'm going to have to start calling you Ace.
You're not the only one.
No.
Not the only one.
How was that? I'm jealous. What does it feel like? What does that moment feel like when you hit the ball? You know you hit it and it just rolls right in.
So the logical part of your brain is like, the ball disappeared. That's a hole in one. The conditioned part of your brain is looking for every reason why that couldn't possibly be so. I looked at Blake and are you sure? Yeah. There's something glimmering beside the hole? No. Is it behind the flag? No. Went in. Then you just sort of go through like, I don't know, it was like a fog came over me.
Yeah, the next hole is not good.
A haze. No, I was trembling. Like I was happy just to hit the ball, make contact with the ball on the next hole. Thank you, Irf. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm nowhere close to a hole in one, but good for you.
Mm-hmm. A lot of names that we want to throw at you here, Irf. You tell us what you're hearing, what you think the likelihood that the Canucks are going to be able to land them. Let's start with big Nikita Zadorov. What says you? What's going on there?
As we inch closer and closer to the draft, a couple days away, free agency on July 1st. I mean, we haven't heard anything yet. The last we heard is maybe the Zadorov camp has come down a little bit in their ask, but Zadorov, if he does hit free agency, is going to get what he wants from somewhere. All signs kind of point it's trending in that direction. I mean, unless the Canucks can pick up the phone and decide that they want to match what they want, or Zadorov really decides that, you know, his value and what he thinks here is best for his family, he's going to end up staying. But if I'm him, you're at that age, you know, you're going to go and get your money somewhere. Why not go and get it? So that's one that I haven't fully closed the door on, but it's as we inch closer here to the draft on Friday, guys, it's one that is definitely closing pretty fast.
Do you know what teams would be involved there, Irf?
I mean, you just look at it by base of teams that have a lot of money that would probably, you know, want to go and look at it, like the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? You know, with the tree living kind of connection there. The Detroit Red Wings, they have all sorts of money now. The Utah hockey team's got all sorts of money. The Boston Bruins are a team that have all sorts of money that'll be looking to improve. And, you know, Zadorov kind of fits that mold of a Bruins type of hockey player, that big physical defenseman that, you know, can score sometimes, but he'll fight for his teammates. And, you know, the Toronto, you know how they love their media darlings, and Zadorov has definitely been that here in these parts.
The Canucks have done a good job of sealing up news generally. Yep. Things have kind of plopped out of nowhere. Pedersen and Roenick in particular, while there had been reporting, it was quiet before both of those signings ultimately get released. So I wonder if it really means anything, but we aren't hearing anything about any of the incumbents. Like, we're just assuming Lindholm's gone, and Joshua, I would have thought if Joshua was coming back, that was the easiest signing to make if he was coming back. And the fact that we haven't seen that one leads me to be rather pessimistic.
Yeah, I think on Joshua, because it's been so quiet for so long and no one's heard anything, whether the agent hasn't said anything or the Vancouver Canucks have, you know, you mentioned, done a pretty good job of keeping everything inside. It's all signs point towards him going to get his money. Now, whether, again, it's the Leafs, whether it's a team like the Chicago Blackhawks, the Colorado Avalanche that would be interested in his services. Like I've said before a million times, this is a guy that for the first time in his NHL career is going to see some real money thrown his way. So go and get your real money if you're Dakota Joshua. If the Canucks are offering you, if they did in fact, or there was anything of $2.5 to $3 million or whatever it was, and a team's giving you $4 million, you take the $4 million all day if you're him. And I just think that that's completely fair. I'm all about guys going to get their bag. I agree with you, Blake. I think that, you know, with the Elias Lindholm story, I think for him, the offer, if it was in fact true, it's 7 times 7. You know, he's a guy that is going to get his money out there right now. If he gets a deal of north of 7.5 or starting at a 7.5 type of range, in a different market, in a less tax place, that's a difference of $3-4 million bucks, right? And the grand scheme of things. So that's a lot of money for some of these guys. And I think that, for his point of view, fit is going to be a big thing for him. I think that he definitely is going to want to be a center. I think that, being a third line center here in Vancouver probably wasn't going to be the best fit for him. And we know Elias Pettersson's probably not going to play the wing. They're not going to move that up either as well. So it was fun while it lasted for Elias Lindholm, but I'm happy for him if he goes and gets out, if he goes and gets his money elsewhere.
Yeah, of course, as you mentioned, with the bigger role. Okay, so Lindholm, Joshua, Lafferty, we don't anticipate any of them will be back. We haven't spent a lot of time on Teddy Blueger, but I understand there might be some encouraging news there with regards to his retention by the Vancouver Canucks. What do you know?
I think they want to bring him back, right? And I think that Blueger might, go out there and kind of test it a little bit. But I think that there's, some indication from both sides that, he wants to play here, that he wants to be here. And does he go back to that third line center role, the role that he was brought here for, right? Now that if Lindholm, in fact, obviously ends up testing free agency and signs elsewhere, is Blueger a guy that, they're going to be able to get on that cheap value and go and spend your money elsewhere? So it's a guy who they know. It's a guy that has some experience in the National Hockey League, and it's a guy that's proven that's been able to play up and down that lineup. So that's an encouraging sign from both.
But I think he also proved this year, guys, he's a fourth line center. Like, for 10 days can play as third line center. But I think his production and his inability to finish, I think that, bring him back, sure. But that's a fourth line center.
For the penalty killing, bring him back.
Yeah, because if you lose Lindholm on PK, you're going to need a guy instantly that goes to your one. And Joshua, if you lose Lindholm and Joshua, all your penalty killers, you're going to have to go and find some new ones, whether that's from within or whether that's out there on the open market or via trade. You're definitely going to have to go and improve that way.
All right, the big fish, Jake Guentzel. And Irf, you've been skeptical that this player is going to sign in Canada.
I've been skeptical since the beginning, to be completely honest. Look, I think that, there was people that said that, the report that was out there that Guentzel was never going to play in Canada was false. I think that was maybe his side trying to drive up the price a little bit. And I think that, having the Canucks maybe be interested in Jake Guentzel, maybe try to drive up his price a little more. He's a guy that's going to want $9 million a year. I mean, are the Vancouver Canucks going to pay north of $9 million a year? Because that's probably what you're going to have to do if you want to even have a shot at the table of talking to Jake Guentzel. So I understand the knowing the front office and knowing the coaching staff and the perfect fit for Elias Pettersson of what it could be, but I don't think it's going to get done. Carolina still has a few more days. If they want to make it work, they can definitely try. So north of $60 million is what he's going to get.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is Carolina still involved there? Who would it be the other teams you think on Guentzel?
I think Carolina's definitely one. Chicago, that's another team, right? I think with Connor Bedard and what they have there and what they potentially could have, getting a guy with the experience that Jake Guentzel does have, and you're going to have to pay a premium for these type of players if you are them. But he's a guy that can definitely help both on the ice and off the ice. And, he's a point of game guy in the playoffs. So if Chicago's a team that's hoping to, inch closer and make the playoffs and, do a little bit of damage in the postseason the next couple of years, he's a perfect guy that you want to ride shotgun with Connor Bedard. So
what's plan B? If you're skeptical on Guentzel at this point, we've got Tyler Toffoli in our poll question as a possibility. Does that make sense? He will be cheaper. He is older. What do you think the interest is in Tyler Toffoli?
He wants more. He wants term, right? You're not getting Tyler Toffoli on a 3-year deal. You're getting Tyler Toffoli on a 4 or a 5-year deal. If you're the Vancouver Canucks, I think that's plain and simple for a guy that's, north of 30 years old in the twilight of his career. He's going to go and try and maximize every opportunity to make as much money as he can. The Canucks are probably going to lowball him. Right? They're going to because of the experience that he's had playing here. And, you're going to get the opportunity to play with Elias Pettersson. You know what? Tyler Toffoli's going to want to get paid. I know he's made a lot of money in his career, but when you're at this stage of your career, you've also played in a number of Canadian markets as well. So I wonder if that's any indication of him maybe kind of want to take his talents elsewhere. But if I'm them, I don't even really try. I just think that he's going to cost too much, to be completely honest. And then for a winger, a scoring winger, like if you go and look at it, and we sit here and we can go through a list of guys, Jake DeBrusk's name has always been linked to the Vancouver Canucks. How expensive is he going to be? Guy like Anthony Duclair, is that a guy that really excites people or gets you, out of your seat if they go and make that move? Probably not. So the Canucks are going to have to get creative. I think that there's an RFA.
Guys, the Manthas and Bertuzzi's. We brought those two names up as well.
Yeah, but even then, like Bertuzzi, okay, he's had some success. He played with Austin Matthews, and Elias Pettersson, yeah, he's got a top level talent, but he's got this one money, right? It's like a lot of these guys are going to want to be paid a lot of money. And I think that for the Vancouver Canucks, they don't really have it. Like you lose Zadorov, you're going to have to spend money and find a defenseman. You lose Lindholm. Yeah, okay, you can probably find a third line center at cheap. You're going to lose Joshua. You're going to need to find someone there. And that's where another name, Matt, I know you're going to mention is Jordan Martinook that might come into play for the Vancouver Canucks as well. But like Mantha doesn't excite me that much. Tyler Bertuzzi really doesn't either all that much for the most part. Like I see you shaking your head there, Blake, because I don't think you both agree, right? Like I think for them, it's an RFA. I think you target who you want. Yeah, you might not have assets in draft capital, but you've got some assets that are on your team if you are willing to part with to improve your hockey team, not just this year, but the foreseeable future. Would you be willing to give those up? And I think that's the question that we need to talk about.
Is that Hoglander, Irf?
Yeah, to be completely honest, it is. I think that the way that, he's come about and had a great season, we all know that north of 20 goal scorers and how many of them were 5-on-5, no showed in the playoffs. Right. And I think that, there are teams around the National Hockey League that have had interest in him in the past. And if you're the Vancouver Canucks, on his next deal, he's going to want a little bit of more money. And if you can go and use him as an asset to try and improve and get a better player in return that you're willing to give that money to, that that will be, more serviceable and dependable than a guy like Niels Hoglander was, you go and you try and make that move if you can.
We have long heard the name John Marino in this market, the right side defenseman, of course, a former Penguin there with the Rutherford Alvin group. He has matriculated to New Jersey, where he didn't have a great season there. And of course, they're getting Dougie Hamilton back. They're expected to be big players on Brett Pesce. So the conventional wisdom is that John Marino will shake free. What do you know there?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the case that he will shake free. It just depends on where he ends up. The natural choice would be you look at here and how he would just fit right into what the Canucks are trying to do, right? And I know that Patrick Alvin
great cap hit too. It's a great cap hit at 4.4.
Yeah, and I know that Patrick Alvin has name checked Cole McWard as a right shot defenseman that he wants to see more from, but you need to have that stopgap. You need to have a guy that's played in these meaningful games. You can't just hope that you fill your roster on entry-level contracts. Like you want one, maybe two every year if you're the Vancouver Canucks to come in and make an impact and be able to prove a lot of people wrong. But Marino would be an interesting one. I think that, like you mentioned, Matt, his name has been linked to this team for quite some time. If they're able to go and make something work to try and get it done, I think that, players on this team would welcome it with open arms, and I think the fan base would too.
Do they have like a deal in a drawer for Tyler Myers? Do you anticipate that it's just a matter of when with Tyler Myers?
Probably. I think that, as much as the agent might say and the team might say, we haven't talked and there's no deal, we haven't even got anything to the table yet. You look at it and all signs point in that direction. He's a guy that played some of his best hockey this season. And, we know, in his personal life of a reason why he wants to stay here in Vancouver as well. And another thing, guys, he's a leader on that team. It may not look like it on some nights on the ice, but off the ice, he is a leader in that room. He's a person that guys gravitate towards too, and bounce ideas off him. And he's a guy that has a lot of experience in the National Hockey League. And if you're getting Tyler Myers at $2.5-3 million on a 2 or on a 3-year deal, I think you go ahead and make that move all day.
Agreed. There's a lot of smoke around Jake DeBrusk to one of the Alberta teams. Of course, his dad works there in Edmonton. Are you buying that? Like, do you think the Canucks are a player on DeBrusk, or do you think he's already got his targets in sight?
It's funny when we do these things because each and every year we sit and talk about the players that have had their names linked to the Vancouver Canucks. And yes, Jake DeBrusk is there once again. His dad works in Edmonton, covers the Oilers, and obviously he's had a pretty good National Hockey League career in Louis. It would be interesting. Like, if the Oilers are going to go and get Jake DeBrusk, it's to say bye-bye to Adam Henrique. Is that your guy that it's probably going to walk, right? What's going to happen with Evander Kane there in Edmonton? He's got a couple of years left. Like, is that going to trend in a different direction for Evander and the Oilers? So I think the Canucks should be in. I think that they're at least they should owe it to themselves to have a conversation and see what the fit could be. I think he's a good player. I think that, he plays hard on both sides of the puck. I think that he can put the puck in the net at any given time. Kind of a streaky goal scorer in that sense, but if the fit were to work, say it doesn't work with a guy like Elias Pettersson, you can see a guy like Jake DeBrusk and JT Miller having some success as a duo on the Canucks top line as well.
I'm noticing a lot of skepticism on your behalf, Irf. And ultimately, they got to sign somebody. Like, they do have cap space. Somebody's going to end up a Vancouver Canuck on July 1st.
Is their money not good?
Who are you going to overpay?
Well, they're going to pay somebody. Are you going to overpay? Like, okay, so Jake Guentzel, I think, is out, to be completely honest. Jake DeBrusk is probably your next best option. You're not overpaying a 34-year-old Tyler Toffoli. Like, you're just not doing that. I don't think you can. I don't think you should, to be completely honest. And I know your poll question, guys. I think it was Tyler Mott and Chris Tanev there as well. I get the allure with Chris Tanev. I really do. But he's going to want his money. And you're not overpaying for Christopher Tanev, who I think to this day still has never played an 82-game regular season. Yes, he's great in the playoffs. And yes, he's done a lot here for the Vancouver Canucks. And like, okay, penalty killer in Tyler Mott. But other than that, really, like, he's a guy that's going to look to cash in as well. So it's going to be interesting for this team, right? And I think that without having a pick until 95, if you're the Vancouver Canucks, there's going to be a lot of sitting around at that table in Vegas waiting for something to happen. And I think their focus needs to be unrestricted free agency. Maybe there is a name out there that the Canucks are really interested in. But of the ones that we just mentioned, all of them that we went through, I think it's going to be tough to make some of those work. Is Mikheyev in training camp? Do they make a move there to create the cap space?
I'll counter this to both of you. Who wants Ilya Mikheyev? If the player in Detroit, his name's not coming to me.
Jake Wallman.
Yeah. If Wallman costs a second-round pick at $3 million, what does Ilya Mikheyev cost at $11 million? What's left in real money, I think.
Well, and Wallman had more goals as a defenseman than Mikheyev had as a winger.
I mean, good for Dan Milstein to go and get the permission to go and facilitate a trade, but who wants Ilya Mikheyev?
Yeah, no.
Who really does?
No, they have the Canucks over the barrel there. I think they may just have to hope for a bounce back season and retain him. Marvelous stuff, Irf. Busy week. You're going to
touch Martinook?
Yeah,
we touched it. Yes.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good fit, to be completely honest. I really do. I think that, he's a guy that can play up and down the lineup. He's a guy that's proven that he can score in the playoffs in Carolina. And what, $3 million, $3.5 million for a guy like him? Maybe a little bit less than that.
You see, Irf, Grady gets these names in his head, and he just can't let go of some of the names.
Is that what it is, eh?
He just wants you to please sign Jordan Martinook today, if you could.
Hey, he played for Talkett in Arizona.
See?
Okay, but if we're going by that and who's played for whom and the relationship with the front office, we could sit here all day and name an all-star team. And I get it. And I like the allure of being able to sit here and play armchair GM, but we have to look at the reality of it. And the reality of this hockey team is they're not going to come back as assembled. They were 1 win away from the conference finals, and they right now are worse than where they were because of who you're going to lose, right? If you lose Elias Lindholm, you're not better. You lose a guy like Nikita Zadorov, you're not better. Those are 2 big holes that you need to fill, figuratively and realistically. So how are they going to do it? It's completely going to be on them, but it's going to be a fun time. I think July 1st is going to be interesting because there's a lot of teams out there that have a lot of money, and I'm not entirely sure the Canucks are going to be able to compete with some of them.
I think you're right. Don't get Grady started on Lawson Krause.
That's right. Oh my God.
Okay. Oh my God.
Grady might marry Lawson.
Who was the new guy you had this morning?
Ryan Lomberg.
Oh, right.
Why? Because now he has a Stanley Cup?
That's right.
He's a bowling ball.
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Great. He's a bowling ball. It's great. That's about all he is.
Talkett guy.
Hey, keep an eye on Zucker. They had some interest at the deadline on Zucker. He's free agent, and he may come in at a far more digestible contract than some of these other guys.
But does he even excite you? Is he going to push your team over the edge, Matt?
No. Well, look. Hey, Irf, last year, look who they signed.
Yep.
Okay, in free agency. Carson Soucy, Ian Cole, Teddy Blueger, Pius Suter. Did anybody from last year's free agent crop excite you? No.
Carson Soucy did, because it showed up a need for them. Yeah, it did. I think it did. And on the deal that they got for him, I think that was a need for them.
Irf is on the opposite end of the spectrum of Grady. Grady wants fourth liners and all fourth liners, and Irf wants all first team all-stars.
Well, no, but my point is that they had a very responsible, very professional offseason last year. Yeah. They had holes on their hockey team. They filled them with good, if not great players. They signed those good, not great players to fair contracts. Did we spend a single minute this year sweating a free agent contract from last summer, gentlemen? No. Because they had a sense of, here's what we got to do to fix the club. We're not blowing our brains out. We're going to get quantity over quality, and it works. If they have another similar offseason, I am A-okay with that.
Yes, but who are the names that are out there? Like you mentioned, those guys that were available to them. Like there's not a lot of guys that are out there that are going to be available like that are going to be able to come here on a team-friendly deal.
Come on. You're right that the flat cap suppressed tickets a little last year. I will absolutely grant that. But I still think there's some good, fair buys in free agency that if you have the discipline, and I think that'll be the big thing. And when I say discipline with this franchise, I mean somebody has to keep the owner away, right? Like somebody has to keep the owner from going, oh, making more money for this guy. You know, I love him. No. Execute a good professional plan, signing fair market value contracts. I think there will be some of them.
I have all faith in this front office. I really do. I think that what they've done and what you just alluded to before in free agency last year are some very good things. You look at the trades that they made this year and what they were able to do and how they were able to integrate themselves into this team. It's just going to be difficult. I really do think it. And I just think that, especially in a Canadian market, you know, I've talked to people that have submitted no trade lists. A lot of those no trade lists have Canadian teams on them.
Sure.
So
I'm saying is of that second tier of wingers, DeBrusk, Bertuzzi, Teravainen, Arvidsson, Toffoli, blah, blah, blah. If one of them gets priced down because the other guys are more attractive to teams, sign that guy. What I'm saying is if you're in on Pesce and you don't like that where the price is going on Pesce, or Pesce says no to you, look at a guy like Carrier. Going to be about 3 years, going to be about $4 million, can play second pair right side.
All I know is this, guys, and I think this is 1,000% true. The money will be spent on somebody.
Oh yeah. The money's going to be spent. The money's going to be spent, and there's going to be people that are not going to like the deals. Like that. That's for damn sure.
Of course not. But let's not fool ourselves into thinking we're a finishing piece away from being a Stanley Cup champion. There are still a multitude of holes on this team, and your mission is to go out and fill those holes in free agency with contracts that are going to age well and not handcuff you from improving the team next summer and the summer thereafter.
Unless there's a trade to come as well. We'll see.
So there's
my biggest thing is, are they going to get a backup goalie? Or is it going to be Shilovs? Like, that's my thing. Because is Shilovs going to be, does it have to be, or are they going to want him to play in the American League some more?
I think it has to be Shilovs because of, the salary structure, because he's earned it. And you go out and you get another organizational goalie, basically a number 3, more veteran guy to be your AHL goaltender. Bring Tolopilo along, and if you have an injury,
it's a risk, but it's one they have to take.
No, I think it's one they have to take. We were talking about them taking this risk last year. So I think it's appropriate after what you saw from Shilovs. In the playoffs. Fun times.
Right.
Good conversation.
Absolutely.
Thanks for this.
No problem. Anytime.
Hey everybody! If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekerson Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.